911, what's your emergency?
Yeah, this is Hank on the Old Gray Road.
What is it this time, Hank?
It's old Bigfoot again. He's back. He's just standing there.
You're listening to You Had Me at Bigfoot with your hosts, Tom. You're not getting any of my Wendigo money. And Dustin.
If this dude touches me, I'm fucking dumping you.
Remember, you can always contact the show via Twitter at You Had Me Podcast, on Facebook, You Had Me Podcast, or by email, contact at youhadmeatbigfoot.com. Now your hosts, Tom and Dustin.
All right, so you're in the woods and you hear like the strangest kind of yelping, screaming noise coming from the distance, and you suspect that it would be a Wendigo. Do you think you have what it takes to seduce that Wendigo?
No, I don't even have what it takes to seduce my wife. No, I don't know.
How do you seduce a Wendigo?
Silver bullet.
Are you talking about like the metal silver bullet, or are you talking
No.
about... Okay. Somebody get him off of eBay. Welcome to You Had Me at Bigfoot. Today's episode we are talking about the Wendigo. Wendigos. We are, today's episode is You Had Me at Wendigo, and we are talking, naturally, about...
The Wendigo.
The Winnebago. It comes from the Native American Algonquin language meaning evil spirit that devours mankind. Other names include Wendigo, Witico, Wendigo, Wighato, Wigtahago, Wigteko, Wendigo, Wetigo, Wendigo, Wetigo, Wendago. If you think I'm making these up, I'm looking at a very long... I mean, it keeps going. Wentico, Wetigo, Wetico.
But these are like
Witico.
Native American names, right?
Wendigo, Wetigo, Wetikio, Wendago, Wendiga, possibly a female version.
That I can get behind.
Wendigo, Wendagu, Wendigo, Wendigo, Wendikook, Wentego, Wentigo, Wincigo, Witigo, Witako, Witaka, Wishago, and, last but not least, Witikau.
Wendigo. Is that
Tribal names for the creature include Atson, Atshin, Chino, Janu, Ithaku, Kokeji, Koketsi, Witiko, and Vindico. Now you know.
Now you know.
And knowing is half the battle. The Wendigo. What is the Wendigo? What the hell is that?
It's a creature or a demon or something that is cannibalistic. So the Native Americans believed that the Wendigo was an actual creature. They still believe in it. There's still Native American reservations where they still believe in the Wendigo is still a creature. They still will not go to some places. There's actually a Ghost Adventure show, that episode that was on not too long ago, where they actually believe they got video of a Wendigo.
Have we seen that?
I've seen it. I don't know if you've seen it.
Does it look like a Wendigo?
You can't really. It looks like a person. It looks like a figure. I mean, you can't really.
That's the thing about the Wendigo is when I was reading about it, there's a lot of, like, it just depends on who you are as to what it is. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, and then the movie Lone Ranger, the Johnny Depp Lone Ranger.
you talked about, like, 6 months ago when we
Yeah.
started this show,
Yeah.
and we said that the next episode was going to be the Wendigo.
6 months ago. But Johnny Depp, Tonto, or whatever his name is, Tonto, yeah. The bad guy was a cannibal, right? And he always called him the Wendigo. Because again, Native Americans believed it as being a creature. They believed it was a demon that could possess, like a Jeffrey Dahmer.
Or who?
Or a Ed Gein. Ed Gein. That, gets the urge to eat flesh. I watched The Simpsons today, and Homer Simpson kept cutting his finger off and eating it, and he started cutting off. Maybe he was possessed by the Wendigo. It was a Treehouse of Horrors episode.
And that's the thing about it, though, is it can be a monster, its own monster. In some folklore, it can be monsters, like you can turn into a Wendigo. In others, somebody can just be referred to as a Wendigo because of some of their characteristics. Or it can just be an evil spirit that possesses somebody who turns them into a Wendigo. And that's the thing about the Wendigo. But for the sake of, just for the show, if we're going to refer to the Wendigo in its cryptid form, which I think is the best way to go, for now at least, I guess. I don't know, what do you think? Or do you just want to talk about it all?
I'm just talking about it all.
Okay.
But, it's also very possible the Wendigo's all BS. And, back in the day when they started talking about the Wendigo, is when there's a lot of starvation and people were eating other people. And the best way they could say is, don't kill me, I was possessed by the Wendigo,
That makes sense. If I had to eat somebody, I would find the most unprovable excuse, what I mean? I would tell people, oh no, it wasn't that I was, it's not that I'm a bad person.
No, I was
I'm
possessed.
a Wendigo.
I'm a Wendigo.
So...
so that's a possibility too. But if I'm going to believe in a Wendigo, I'm going to lean towards more of it's a demon that can possess you. Or it's a form of Bigfoot.
I think it's that. I think it's a cryptid. I think of the Wendigo as a cryptid, and even Mattsquatch referred to the Wendigo or the Wendigo Bigfoot. Do you believe in the Wendigo?
I believe in the Wendigo. Yeah. I believe that the Wendigo is more of a demon than anything. I believe it's a demon that can, just like Zuzu or what, I think it's a demon that can possess you.
But what about, like, in Boston, Ohio? Like that whole Helltown thing?
Yeah.
Did you hear about that?
Yeah, you were telling me about it.
So you haven't heard about that thing. You just heard about it from me.
You, yeah.
So that doesn't count. That's like... That was, fuck it. So you think the Wendigo's a demon? I don't have anything to add to that.
Is that what you think the Wendigo is? Is a demon?
I don't know. I don't know what the Wendigo is. I think,
But the Wendigo is because Native Americans believed that the Wendigo was an actual,
entity. Like it's its own thing.
Like it's a cryptid.
Yeah.
But then there's other beliefs that the Wendigo is a demon that can possess you.
It's a shapeshifter, apparently.
See, that's what on the Ghost Adventures episode they talked about it being a shapeshifter.
Yeah.
And how it could be in a human form and then bounce over to a cryptid looking form. But if that's the case, wouldn't that make you think that it's more of a demon? Or are we going to go on and say that all cryptids are from hell? Like all dogs go to heaven, all cryptids go to hell.
Well, I watched that Helltown documentary, which if you're looking for an endorsement from us, you don't get it, because that documentary was terrible. It was not good.
Wait a second. You told me to watch it. It was the greatest thing ever.
I did not say it was the greatest thing ever. I said to watch it because it's important to watch. As a commentator on a show about cryptids and aliens and ghosts and stuff. But it's a terrible show. I mean, the way it was framed, the way it was created, the way it was designed it was very unclear about its intention. And like, it starts out like, and I think 99% of what was in that show, no, not 99%. I think probably about a good half of it is just acting, and not even good acting. Like, it was terrible acting. But it was a guy who said that he was a Marine back in, just after he had gotten back from Vietnam. And he was a journalist in the Marine Corps. And he was sent to Boston, Ohio, after they evacuated the whole city, or the whole town. And he had to record every house that was evacuated and everything to make sure anyone who left anything behind, it was documented. And I think that guy was fake. I don't think he was. I mean, he was obviously a real man.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like a puppet.
he faked it all.
Yeah. I think he was just an actor. And likewise, there was another guy who did he has like a YouTube channel about conspiracies and stuff like that. And he was the other major person on the show. And I think he was fake as well.
Like, here's the other thing with the Wendigo. Like, I'm looking at a lot of pictures of the Wendigo. It literally looks like a meat-eating deer.
Yeah, it looks like a humanoid deer.
Yeah. Is it possible that there's just a deer out there that's like just said, "Screwed Mother Nature, I'm eating shit"?
Well, I mean, evolution. it's you know. Maybe it just naturally adapted to become a bipedal cannibal or bipedal carnivore.
But as far as cryptids go, if you had to put it on a scale of 1 to 10 on you believe this is a real life cryptid, what would you put the Wendigo? 10 being...
10 Bigfoots being...
Yeah, 10 Bigfoots being, I believe that this thing is really out there. 1 being, I'm not really sure. Like, you know, I think we both agree that we believe there's a Bigfoot something out there.
Yeah.
So for the sake of scales, let's say that's a 10 for us, because we feel pretty good that it's very logical that there's a Bigfoot creature in the woods.
Sure.
Where would you rate the Wendigo on that?
I have no reason not to believe in the Wendigo. I would say, as it stands right now, is there a creature out there with antlers that stands on 2 feet and eats human flesh? 7. I'll give it a 7.
Really?
I think there is. Yeah, I do. I think there is.
So do you not believe that the Wendigo is a demon at all? Do you 100% think it's just a cryptid, bottom line?
Well, I mean, you can persuade me, and hopefully throughout this episode you'll be able to persuade me one way or the other. But I think right now I'm leaning more towards the Wendigo being a cryptid,
because we don't really have too many. I mean, look, if someone gets mauled by an animal, they're going to be like, "Oh, it's a bear, it was a wolf." I mean, could it have been a cryptid Wendigo? Sure, right? I guess.
Well, that's on that video or on that show. They talk about the people who they recover.
See, I have not seen Helltown, so I feel like we need to get Mattsquatch for 5 minutes on the phone.
I wonder if he'll answer.
He might.
I'm excited to have Mattsquatch.
I am too.
To lend us some of his sweet Bigfoot knowledge.
Yes!
We're going to get the expert.
We're getting the cryptid expert.
So what are we going to ask this guy?
About what his take is on Wendigos.
Wendigo. Wintico. Wintaco. Winchugo.
Like
Wendigo.
We'll stick to the fact that I think maybe it's more of a demon, and you think it's more of a cryptid, and what he thinks about the Wendigo.
All right.
And we'll kind of bring up, we've researched and saw that could be a shapeshifter, and
I think, but what about a werewolf?
that could be a type of a Wendigo.
Well, I'm saying, like, you're talking about because it transforms from people to a cryptid or a monster or whatever, you're saying that it's a demon.
A werewolf has got to be considered demonish.
No, it's a cryptid because it's still a person even.
That thing's damned to hell. Don't you know anything? Have you ever been bitten by a werewolf before?
I've never been bitten by a werewolf. No.
Have you ever seen a real wolf?
Yeah.
The things are massive.
Yeah, they are.
Like, you would think they're just like, oh, it's like the size of a German Shepherd.
I thought they were like puppies. Or, you know, not like puppies. I thought
like
they
a
were
dog
size,
Yeah,
you know.
no, they're humongous.
Yeah, no, I realize that now. Yeah, it was a couple years ago I found out.
And where have you been?
Not like the hard way. Like, you know how like people are like, well, that's when I
Yeah.
found out the hard way. I didn't find out the hard way. I saw it on the internet and I was like, oh, wow. That's pretty big. Much bigger than I thought it was.
He's probably like, honey, I gotta go. Some people need my expertise again. my studies is paying off.
Can you imagine, like, he's got, like, the Bigfoot signal in the sky? we need to, like, flip the switch, and all of a sudden it says Mattsquatch.
So are you going to play his theme song again for Wendigo Mother? Dun, 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 dun. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello!
Mattsquatch!
Yeah. 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 Hello, boys.
Hello!
We were just saying that we need to have like a Bigfoot signal that we can flip on, and it'll let you know that we need your help.
Oh, okay. I am the Mattsquatch.
And that's what Dustin said. He said you were probably
I'm not the hero you need, but the hero you deserve.
He said that you were probably with your wife and you were like, hold on, honey. So somebody needs my expertise. And I'm like, imagine that. Like, imagine like after all these years, you're like, oh, this is just a fun hobby. And then all of a sudden somebody's like, hey, I got a serious question about a Bigfoot and I really need your help. And you're like, finally, all this time it has paid off. People are calling me to ask me about Bigfoots.
It's kind of funny. Every family event, my wife's family's huge. I mean, every, like, a small birthday get-together is like 30 people. There's always a sister-in-law, a brother-in-law, a cousin, somebody I know that while everybody's out having a party and the kids are swimming and swinging and eating cake and doing everything else, I'm always in the corner with a beer talking to some relative about Bigfoot. It's usually where they say, okay, convince me. And then they ask me all the big questions. How come we don't find their poop? How come we don't find their bones? How come we've never taken a photograph? And I'm like, okay, I've got answers for you. You know, I should have just forwarded them your podcast and said, leave me alone. But
hey, these guys ask those same boneheaded questions that you're asking me right now. So just go check them out.
You know, I'm thinking of doing a video where I just address the most common things, where I go over all that stuff, you know, for new people or people who are on the fence. You know, I've got so many video ideas and so little time.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I mean, that would be, I think that would just be a quick, when people say, well, how come such and such? Let me look it up online real quick. And then it would populate your video. Like the questions that they think are silly or dumb or whatever, but they're like, that's going to be the smoking gun that, you know, I'm going to be the first person to ask that question. Oh, no, you're not, because Mattsquatch already addressed that.
It's people that are always like, oh, I'm an environmentalist, or I go camping all the time, or I'm a backpacker, or I'm a hunter, people who think they know something, you know, and they're always the ones that try to get you the, aha, how come we've never found a body, or aha, how come we've never had a good photograph, and aha, this. And it's really funny because they're the first ones, and you say like, well, you know, if we ever got really good footage, you probably wouldn't see it because of the government. And they're like, oh, no, that's just tinfoil hat time. That's getting too far out there. And it's like, okay, I'm just telling you what you asked me. I'm just telling you what I think, you know? So, but, oh, by the way, I really love your Twitter name. It's called, what was your Twitter name? Colonel Greased Panties? Is that what it is?
No, I'm glad you said something about it because nobody has ever asked me about it. It's
Colonel Greased Lightning?
Colonial. It's Colonial Greased Lightning. And the thing was...
Oh, I thought it was Colonel.
And that's...
I guess I wasn't paying attention.
No, and that's the thing. When I originally set up an email, like, gosh, it must have been like a decade and a half ago, it was supposed to say Colonel Greased Lightning, but it said, instead of EL at the end, it said AL. And I never noticed it. And then somebody saw it and they said, "Oh, your email's Colonial Greased Lightning." And I said, "That's even better."
It's really out there. Oh.
Yeah, well,
So
after
what's
I
going
got
on, guys?
suspended, I went back to that account, and so now I'm not using my real first name anymore. But anyways, we're talking about
the Wendigo.
the Wendigo, right?
The Wendigo. Now, the Wendigo, are you talking about the spiritual demon from Native American folklore, or are you talking about the Northwest carnivorous version of Sasquatch?
See, there we go.
And that's why we called you.
Because I go towards the demon spiritual and he's going towards the more cryptid. We want to know what your opinion is.
I think they're two separate things. Much like, see, there's a lot of conjecture because there are thousands. You even go to hundreds of thousands of Bigfoot sightings where, yeah, I saw it scratch its butt and will walk across the road. I saw it pooping. I saw it eating. I saw it drinking out of a puddle. I saw it walking along. Then you get other people with Bigfoot that said its eyes flashed red like the predator, or it cloaked like the predator and walked away. Or I saw it fly across the field. Its legs didn't move, or it levitated, or it disappeared, or it was able to disappear and reappear behind me. And so you have a lot of reports of a physical being going on, and then you have a lot of reports of something paranormal, something supernatural. And the best way, there's a lot of theories on this, and I'm not saying my theory is right because it's just a theory, is when it comes to normal Bigfoot doing weird stuff. Ron Moorhead, who's a famous researcher, has a book called Quantum Bigfoot, where he goes into that. And he starts getting into maybe they're the Nephilim, and that's where they got these so-called superpower from. But what I like in it is, it's kind of like how in a real honest-to-God exorcism, not like the bad movies, but real honest-to-God exorcisms, how people can levitate, 4 feet off the ground, and a 70-pound 8-year-old girl can throw 3 men across the room and speak in voices and do things. Like, I think that, there's a certain number of times where what you're seeing you think is a Bigfoot is actually like a shapeshifter or like a Wendigo or a skinwalker, as they're called. Or there's even other theories that Bigfoot is like an empty vessel, that a bad spirit could inhabit them and make them do things. I don't know, but when you talk about the Wendigo, there's the classic Wendigo from Native American folklore, which it has an emaciated body. It has the head of like a demon or a man, but then it has these big elk antlers coming out, and it's basically like a zombie. It's carnivorous. It just eats, and it can never satisfy its hunger. And if you get bit, or if you see one, or if you have an encounter with a Wendigo, you become a Wendigo and you become a cannibal. And the more you eat, the hungrier you get, and you're always emaciated. And that's the spiritual Wendigo. But when the Native Americans from all across the U.S., more or less on the East Coast, they described like a big patty type like Bigfoot, but it's got fangs, it's got claws, and they're very dangerous, and they've been known to even grow like more like a white coat, and they love the cold conditions, although they can be found in other parts of the country. At that point, I think you've crossed over from where a regular Bigfoot is like a grizzly bear, where they'll eat deer, but they'll also eat, berries and shrubs, to like a polar bear that eats, strictly meat. As far as the supernatural Wendigo, that's right up there with like the Thunderbird and the Skinwalkers and all the other stuff from Native folklore. Every other folklore has their version of demons, so I assume that that's what it is. I supposed if I was an Indian and I had heard all the stories of Skinwalkers and Wendigos, and I came across a 9 to 10 foot tall, 1,000-pound, 4 foot wide at the shoulder, sharp-fanged Bigfoot tearing apart some deer with blood all over it, I would probably go, "Hey, it's a Wendigo," So that's kind of my take on it. I'm not discounting the native beliefs for their Skinwalker Wendigo demon, but I think that's kind of like when they saw kimono dragons, that's why they're called kimono dragons. They're like, "Oh my God, it's an 8-foot lizard, it's a dragon,"
Right.
And So I think there's a lot of that going on, but I couldn't tell you specifically what tribes, but I have heard stories of where some tribes, they're like, no, we have two Wendigos. One is the hairy biped Bigfoot creature where they know about normal Bigfoots, and then they know about this carnivorous variety. And then they're like, we specifically have a spiritual Wendigo too, the demon that makes you a cannibal. So that's pretty much what I know about the subject. Real or spiritual, as in a physical being or the spiritual being, I don't really want to mess with either one, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. No, that's actually what we were arguing about before we called you, was we were saying, is it a cryptid or is it a demon? And then we said, well, let's get Mattsquatch on the phone.
So if you had to pick one or the other, now I know you're saying that you think they're two separate things, but if you had to pick one that you personally feel has more likely to be real, would it be the cryptid or the spiritual? I
am a spiritual person. But I would definitely say the cryptid. There's lots of reports of people who aren't Native American, just normal people, ranchers, hunters, hikers, who have come across something that looks like what you and me think of a Bigfoot, but it's got fangs and claws and it's tearing animals apart. So I would say the cryptid. I would say they're, if Bigfoot is rare enough, this is incredibly rare. I mean, if tigers are rare, this is the white tiger.
Right.
It's going to go eat Siegfried and Roy. But yeah, so I mean, that's pretty much what I can liken it to is, regular Bigfoots, and it's kind of strange from what I found. The areas that have these Wendigo type Bigfoots, these purely carnivorous varieties, you kind of don't hear a lot of the other Bigfoot varieties being in the area. I'm sure from what I've heard about the physical Wendigos, they tend to be more solitary creatures. Kind of like an 800-pound lone wolf, so to speak. Right. Where they kind of do their own thing. They're not the ones you're going to go out and knock on trees and hoot and holler and do the Finding Bigfoot. They're not the ones you're going to leave Spam and green beans on your porch, and then the next day you're going to find, dead mice and berries on your porch as a gift. These aren't that Bigfoot. These are very bad creatures, kind of like how grizzly bears and black bears are bad enough. If you see one, you back up. But if you've ever been on the Arctic, have you ever seen one of those documentaries with polar bears?
Yeah, no, polar bears are the only bears that see you as food. Like that.
Yeah, you can be on the ice and see a polar bear from 500 yards away. He'll sniff the air and he'll book it 30 miles an hour all the way over to you and eat you. And that's kind of what I like in these things too. I mean, yeah, you see polar bears when they come up to the tour bus. They're ones that are more socialized. But if it's in the middle of winter or the spring thaw, because polar bears actually do worse when it's thawed because they can't hunt in the ice. If there's a starving polar bear and you're with an eyesight or smell and you're on the ground and you don't have a rifle, you're screwed. That thing's just going to come kill you. And I think the Wendigos are a lot like that. And polar bears aren't really gregarious like black bears and even grizzly bears have been known to kind of inhabit the same areas if there's, no competition. And I think that's probably about the best analogy is you're going to hear. Kind of like how if regular Bigfoots are lions where they'll work in a pride or a group, these things are more like a tiger where they're just going to be lone solitary hunters,
Right on.
As far as the spiritual one, I don't doubt that there's a spiritual version of it. I think, cannibalism, I always look into the bizarre, strange stuff. So I know a little bit about cannibalism. If you've ever seen that movie with Denzel, the one, the Book of Eli.
Yes.
There's a one where they get brought in by the family and the old lady, their hands are shaking and he's like, we got to get out of here. They're cannibals. Well, there's actually a prion that lives in the human brain stem and lives in our brain. It doesn't affect us. But if you eat another human, if you eat enough flesh and spinal fluid or brain material, you can get infected with this prion, and it slowly breaks down your brain and makes you go crazy. And this is proven science. This isn't, Mattsquatch conspiracy. Which is why the natives and people historically, if there's a society of cannibals, they're often really crazy, and the society doesn't last very long because this prion, this germ infects their brain and turns it to mush, and they just end up becoming almost like a zombie, where all they just want to do is eat more. And so I think that the taboo of eating people, I think that kind of trickles down into the native cultures. And if they did have maybe 2 or 3 Indians go out in the woods and they ended up, starving and they ended up eating each other, and then they get this prion and end up going nuts, it's because, this guy ate that guy and they, this tribe, and it's a big taboo. And I think like most stories, like, don't go out, the boogeyman's going to get you. It's like, well, I don't care how starving you are. Don't eat another person. You're going to go crazy and become a Wendigo, So I think there's a lot of physical basis with the creature, and then with the spiritual being like a hungry cannibal, like cannibalism is bad. I think that's one of the most fundamental things that makes us human is we don't eat each other typically.
Right.
So, that's kind of my 2 cents. I'm sure if you found somebody who was a Native American, they'd probably say, no, that Mattsquatch guy's kind of right, or he's all wrong, or he's kind of got the idea, or he scratched the surface. But as I know it, from the Bigfoot world, there's definitely a physical carnivorous being, and from the spiritual world, there's a representation from the natives. And that's about pretty much what I know. I know either one of them is bad news. You don't want to get near them. So,
all right. Well, we appreciate it.
Okay.
We like we said when we called you before, we're going to use you from time to time as our. I told Dustin, I said, I feel like Rick from Pawn Stars. I said, you know what? I don't know a whole lot about this, but let me get somebody, if you don't mind, I want to have somebody come down and take a look at it.
Well, absolutely. If you guys ever put any forethought into this and you guys find a video that you're like, hey, what do you think? Send me the video. We can watch it, maybe play it back, and we can go over it together on the air. So you can put it on we can do a breakdown over the phone, or if you ever come across an audio clip that like, I think that's coyotes, I think that's howls, or, hey, somebody found these footprints. What do you think? Just give me a call.
Okay.
Thanks for your help, buddy.
No problem. Take care, guys.
Yeah, Dustin's all butthurt now because you told him because he was wrong.
I was so excited to call you, and now I'm like, oh.
he thought it was a demon.
You guys are basically both right. The Native Americans, a lot of them, especially in the Northwest with the Algonquin culture, believe in I think it's Algonquin. I'm probably wrong. But they believe that there's a spiritual, the best thing you can say is a demon that comes for people, and it's called a Wendigo. So, yes, it does exist in their cultures, and people have seen them. So you guys are both right, if that makes you guys feel any better.
I feel better.
I was over here doing the arm chug whenever you said cryptid, and he was over there.
Yeah, he was over here punching the air and stuff.
Okay, well, and you have to take a look at the descriptions. The Native American description of a Wendigo, of an 8 or 9 foot tall, emaciated, skinny, skeleton-looking creature with giant elk antlers coming out of its head, with blood dripping out of its jaws, that looks a lot different than a giant carnivorous Bigfoot,
Right.
I mean, they're both big and scary, but they're just opposite ends. So I think if somebody's talking about it, it's like, you're probably not going to confuse one for the other. But like I said, maybe that's where the rumors came from, is they saw, carnivorous Bigfoot's tearing something apart or eating people, and they said, well, it's the Wendigo. We don't have any other word for it.
I think it's just a deer. I think it's a deer that's got rabies.
Yeah.
Now Dustin's he's shutting down. He's like, you know what? None of this is true.
It's all fake.
Yeah, he's going to go to bed tonight. He's going to crawl into bed, and he's going to hear a creak in the room, and out of the corner of his eye, he thinks he's going to see antlers, and
They asked my wife, is there a Wendigo in here? So it's I'm like, no, it's me.
You're not allowed to go over to Tom's house anymore and talk about scary stuff.
Can I sleep with the light on tonight? And the Glock?
All right, buddy.
Okay. All right, guys. Take care.
Yep, we'll see you later.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
I say boom boom boom, no we're about to say well.
No.
Boom boom boom, no let me hear say well.
No.
I say boom boom boom, no we're about to say well.
Hello?
I say boom boom boom, no let me hear say well.
Hello?
I say boom boom boom, no we're about to say well.
Notice.
I can hear you just fine.
It's the Outer Brothers.
Yes.
Back in the room.
You guys okay?
Ready to rock the world with the boom. So I hope you can stand the vibration. Because we're about to rock the entire nation.
I can hear you.
Alright? Here we go.
I say boom boom boom, no let me hear say well.
Technical difficulties.
So, as Mattsquatch said, it can be one or the other. And he brought up a good point about it being, about the spiritual aspect of it. Like he said, I was right 100% and you were wrong 100%. But no, but how he said the spiritual thing, if you look at it from, so if you were to pull up a by name list of demons with their attributes, and you can see here, I have it pulled up, Abigar. is one that can foretell future and give military advice. Abraxas, demon with the head of a king and a snake-like feet that holds a whip in his hands. Adad, god of the storm. Babylonians and Hittites prayed to the god of the storm. Okay, Az, Iranian, is a demon and personification of evil longings. So each one of them has their own, their name and then their characteristics. If we were to take that as true, would it be so hard to believe that one of them is cannibalistic? And once it inhabits a body or a vessel, so what, an animal, a person, whatever it takes over, that could turn them into a cannibal. So it's not that far-fetched. And as we talked about on the demon possession episode, being possessed, the body starts to, decay and degrade, and the body kind of turns while it's inhabited by this demon. So the change that comes with being inhabited by a demon, could it turn you into an 8-9 foot tall, antler-headed, emaciated zombie type creature? Sure. Again, if we were to take this as true, and that if we were to say that was the case and that all this was...
I like your explanation, because it could be just a possessed animal. We know it can happen.
Or a possessed person that slowly turns into looking like an animal.
Sure. Yeah.
So
the Bible talks about Jesus casting the demon into the pigs and the pigs running off the cliff.
Fun fact was he cast... Legion was the name of the demon. Demons.
Legion.
Well, that's what Emily Rose said, right? Annalise, whatever her name was. But Legion, when it was written,
don't say that name one more time.
It's
like say it 3 times, it'll show up.
So. Was when it was translated from when it was written in the gospel, at the time, the name given that became translated to what we're talking about now, the way it was worded, and a lot of biblical historians will say that the word was used because that was the largest military unit at the time. So it would have been like a division. So when they say that was the name of the demon that was inhabiting that person, it was like saying that there were the upwards of, up 2,000 demons inside of that person. So that particular demon not only was one, but it was many, which is, I believe, what the quote was, for we are legion. Yeah, I am. No, I think he said, I am legion, for we are many, right? Yeah. So that was the whole idea behind that. And then it was cast into however many pigs that ran.
Well, but you talk about in the exorcism in our last episode, once you've had one cleansing, if you allow it back into your system, back into you, it could come with more of its friends.
Right, and it was seven nastier demons, and that's kind of what we're seeing here on this website is the list of all these different demons. So if we were to look specifically at the Judeo-Christian demons, it would be 7 of the 7 nastier ones than the one that inhabited that person initially. And but I actually found right here the demon that inhabits you. His name is Awar.
Oh yeah.
He's the Arab demon of laziness.
Oh! My wife would agree with this.
But, yeah, so that's, sure, yeah.
So you think if I go home tonight, lay in bed, and be like, I am a war.
For we are lazy.
For we are lazy.
You could probably get away with not scrubbing the toilet tonight, I would imagine.
I did that already.
Well, maybe next time, use that excuse. Use the excuse that you've been inhabited by a war. So if we're talking about, I like the idea of a Wendigo that is cryptid, but at the same time, I'm okay with getting behind your idea because, sure, it does make sense when he was talking about, and that's why when he said during his episode or during his interview, you had me at Mattsquatch. They he had said the Wendigo Bigfoot, and he's talking about a real nasty, horrible, scary, vicious Bigfoot.
After talking to Mattsquatch, I'm not I don't lean. I think they're both. But going into it, that was the only two options that there.
So imagine this. Imagine this demon, this Wendigo demon, inhabits a Bigfoot, like he said.
And now it's...
And then it turns into this Wendigo Bigfoot. Anyways, that's when we're talking about shape-shifting and stuff like that, that makes a lot of sense. Because if there's multiple Wendigo demons, or not demons, but spirits or whatever, I mean, that's very possible. But it's just as possible as anything else we talk about on this show.
So on a scale of 1 to 10 Bigfoots...
I thought we only did 5. What are we
5,
doing 10 now?
Where'd 10 come from? on a scale of 1 to 5 Bigfoots, how real, in your opinion, or what's your 1 to 5 Bigfoots on the Wendigo?
Are we already at that part in the episode that we're given the...
Aren't we?
No, we're not even close to that. We haven't even talked about the Wendigo. People at home are like, well, what is a Wendigo? You know? We haven't even gotten V and James on the phone.
Well, I figured we'd do this part and then get V and James on the phone.
Have we talked about the Wendigo inhabits the forest in the Great Lakes in Canada? The dreaded Wendigo.
Please stand by. We are experiencing technical difficulties. 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 Please stand by. We are experiencing...
That's what a Wendigo sounds like.
Is it? The Wendigo King. What do you think?
I'm going to find a Wendigo sound. Do you think so? Now there's a Wendigo King?
Yeah, there's a Wendigo King.
So there's a whole...
Which one do you think is worse, the Wendigo King or the Queen?
Yeah.
I want to find this Wendigo King. What does he look like?
I got Wendigo sound effects.
Well, let's hear it.
Son of a bitch, that's scary.
That might be the scariest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Sounds like me when I'm having an orgasm.
Sounds like you when you're eating a cheeseburger.
Like I said, when I'm having an orgasm. I'm gonna have nightmares tonight, for real. For real, though.
Did you look up Wendigo on the toilet? Is that what that is?
No, it's just... Was that a joke?
No. I don't tell jokes. I don't like jokes.
This is a Wendigo. Hannibal was a Wendigo?
Oh, is this the Wendigo King? Look at that guy.
Dude, that would be nice mounted.
Okie doke. So the Wendigo is the Wendigo diet is exclusively human flesh, constantly. It will go to any length to procure food, no matter the risk or possibility of injury.
So you're telling me this Wendigo doesn't eat nothing but human?
It exclusively eats human flesh constantly. Which, like Mattsquatch said, even though it's constantly eating, it still looks like it's not eating, like it's starving, like it looks emaciated, was the thing. That insatiable hunger, but it still looks, you know,
so is
skinny
it
as a
possible
rail.
that a lot of these missing peoples that we never find have been eaten by the Wendigo?
I think that's entirely possible. It's as possible as anything else that we talk about on this show. Yes.
Which could be Not possible at all.
It could be not possible at all. It could be totally possible.
You would think that.
I don't know.
I bet the military. Here's some conspiracies, man.
I think they're from the dark side of the moon.
Oh, obviously, but I think the military has harnessed the Wendigo, and we actually set this thing loose in Afghanistan.
Is that right?
I've seen it, man.
You've seen a Wendigo.
Yeah, man.
So we know that it lives in Canada.
Like all blood-sucking things.
Who's that a dig at?
Just Canadians.
Most caves, gullies, and canyons in central Canada will provide shelter for the Wendigo. The Wendigo's territory is vast, stretching from the Canadian Rockies.
Oh, Jameis is calling.
Hello?
You're on the show.
You're on the air.
You're not allowed to say that.
And now for our... This is our senior musical director advisor...
Our chief senior musical director of photography and music, specifically music.
John
I
Williams.
stay away from the photography part.
Jim Johnson. All right, so what do you got for us? You got a song about the Wendigo? The Wendigo?
Yeah, I do. Are you ready for it?
Been ready. Yep.
Okay.
Much better.
Cause I must be Wendigo.
Oh my god.
Cause I live in the North Atlantic coast. No, okay. No, that doesn't work, does it?
Dude, I'm dying. Because we're like, isn't this Freebird?
I was thinking about how you were trying to do the theme and you just gave us the Terminator 2 song. And you were like, no, I think it's ready. I think it's good to go. And then it's like, do. Come with me if you want to live. And I was like, wait a minute, this doesn't sound... And you're like, no, it's totally original. And I'm like,
Yeah, no, that was original.
Come with me if you want to live.
Yeah, I think they just stole it from me. Is what it was.
the year that you were born.
Well, I mean, the whole movie is about time travel, so obviously they came to
They did
now.
not. Well,
and
yeah, they were
that song.
traveling in time, not you.
Okay, so I got a song for your Wendigo. It's gonna help people to understand who the Wendigo really is, because I think he's just misunderstood.
Okay.
So, are you ready?
I better not start out like Freebird again.
Okay, let's go. No. Oh wait, wrong chord. Sorry. It does have one of the same chords.
Well, most songs do.
Yeah, that's true. Wendigo is just like you. Only if you ain't able to. He lives up in Canada. No one wants to live in Canada. But it's not because of the Wendigo. It's probably because of more healthcare. Wendigo, so misunderstood. He just wants some food. Just because it's human food doesn't mean that he's a bad dude. He just wants you.
sent a message to the Wendigo community that we stand with the Wendigo community.
We sure do. Hashtag stand. I'm with Wendigo.
Have you ever been touched by Wendigo?
How many fingers does a Wendigo have?
It's not about the fingers with the Wendigo. It's
Size of the antlers.
it's how many antlers.
And it's not the size of the antlers, it's the motion of the ocean.
You're on with You Had Me at Wendigo.
You're on there.
What's happening, fellas?
Nothing. We're
You
just
guys talking about Wendigo, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, we've been talking about Wendigo for a hot minute, and we have yet to, I think, accomplish anything. We actually did talk to our Bigfoot expert, and he...
Bastard.
Yeah, he kind of cleared the air about some misconceptions about the Wendigo Bigfoot versus the spiritual Wendigo of the Algonquin tribe. So he was a useful call.
I read a really interesting story about, I did a little research myself. I read an interesting story about Wendigo. It was kind of like a Faustian pact. Like one of the tribesmen wanted to protect his tribe, so he made a deal with the devil and became Wendigo, which I think is awesome because making deal with devils is something I'd like to do one day. You know, if I ever run into one, I'm gonna see if I can wheel and deal with the guy.
See if I can square myself away with a nice little contractual agreement with Beelzebub.
Yeah, exactly. But all the pictures, I noticed it has like big antlers. Looks like a part tree, part Bigfoot, part deer.
Part tree.
Part tree.
So his weakness and strength is motor vehicles.
God.
He's got that Wendigo in the headlights look. That one.
Wendigo, get out of the way of this vehicle.
All right, enough with the go with this and that. That's how many times are you going to make that same joke but with different words? Stop it.
As many opportunities as you give me.
Well,
So it's a cannibal thing, right? It's associated with like cannibalism. There's even like a friggin' psychosis, Wendigo something.
Wendigo
rather.
psychosis, yeah.
Yeah, Wendigo, and the people it's they attribute it to cannibalism. Like it's a reason why they became a cannibal is because they became a Wendigo or some rather.
Well, what's interesting is Mattsquatch told us about that. He said, well, first and foremost, Wendigo psychosis is the short version of it is. You know what? I'll just go ahead and read it. What causes us greater...
The end. That's it.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. No, but basically, like, people will eat another person, and then they want to continue eating people, and it just becomes, an addiction for them. And
you can't really blame them.
Well, yeah. Once you've tasted that sweet human meat,
Yeah, sweet man meat.
Dustin's over here pinching his own nipples.
Well, there's the Mayans back in the day, and I read this somewhere too. The albondigas soup. You guys know about this? It's like they use pork in it now. Well, it used to be human that they put in that soup, but then once it became a faux pas to eat humans, they decided to substitute it with pork because that's the closest thing that tastes like human.
Have you ever
fun fact there?
Have you ever chewed on your, like when you're chewing on your fingernails or whatever, and you got that little, the skin that kind of comes off?
And you're like, man,
you gotta rip it off.
And you're like, this tastes really good.
Yeah, it's like it really doesn't taste bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, can you imagine just taking a big old, Dustin-sized bite out of this human arm?
Well, I've considered it. And hear me out on this. You got to consider the best, most tenderest meat. If you're gonna eat a human, you probably want to go with like a baby. Like in the calf, like the baby meat is probably the most tender and like best. So you get like a fat baby. Get like a fat baby and then cook it up. I bet that's probably You know, divine.
Baby, the other white meat.
So,
That was
you know,
the
eating
most
babies.
graphic
That'll
thing I
probably
think
do
I've
it.
ever heard you say. And it wasn't even like what you said. It was how you described what it would be like to eat a baby.
Is it bad that I'm thinking about going home and taking a bite out of my son?
Well, it's those things that lead you down the path of the Wendigo.
In the name of science, I have to take a bite of
I'm
you.
going to have to eat my kid now. I don't know what to tell you. It wasn't,
I mean, it's logical. It makes sense. If the most tender meat you want the best of the best meat.
Remember that
you
dude
go-
that went to he went to India and he went up to that northern it was the northern part of India where they have all the cannibals, and he had to eat a person, like he had to eat a piece of a person, but it was overcooked, so he kind of like chewed on it and then he spit it out, and then the tribe was super pissed about it. They were like, "What are you doing? Pick that up and eat it. Finish your human." Let's get back into talking about how many antlers, all right?
So wait. So can I just get something cleared up?
Go ahead.
Last week was a do-it-yourself exorcism, or how to do an exorcism at home. Is this week how to land yourself in a psych ward for eating children?
Yes.
No, today we are actually going to talk about how to escape or kill a Wendigo. All right? According to legend, it's nearly impossible to escape a Wendigo. Hunters by nature.
No, I did it.
Hey, I'm trying to tell you how to escape a Wendigo.
I did it. I did it multiple times.
You know what? You know what's funny is I don't know how many times I've escaped a Wendigo, because like I don't know that I've ever encountered one, but I may have. You know what I mean? Like, and I just got away clean.
The internet says that people can become Wendigos. So you could have interacted with a Wendigo and not even known it.
And I escaped from a Wendigo. So you're talking to an expert at escaping from Wendigos.
Yep.
Maybe.
That's possible.
But let's finish up this article here. This is an actual article. It's and what's funny is it's on science.howstuffworks.com. All right, how to escape or kill a Wendigo. It's science.howstuffworks.fake.com/imaginary / Wendigo / how to kill it.
This isn't real at all.
.htm.
That's also the URL for my girlfriend's Facebook page.
No, your girlfriend's Facebook page is I got something for this.
There's too much of a delay. I'm not going to be insulted anymore.
I know. That's killing me. I'm trying to think of something too, man.
It's Malibu Barbie Let's Plays, all right?
Come on, Barbie. Let's go party.
That was... I went as low as I could on that one. All right. So, hunters by nature, Wendigos are extremely fast and allow nothing to get in their way of their never-ending hunger. Even if you could escape physical damage, which is unlikely, the very fact that you'd encountered an otherworldly Wendigo would leave you mentally vacant. Like James. Wendigos hibernate for months or years, but woe betide when they awaken. Wendigos can stalk stealthily victims for extended periods, thanks to supernatural speed, endurance, and heightened senses such as hearing so profound they can pick up on panicked heartbeats from miles away. This skill,
I read that Wendigos have like supernatural hunting abilities.
I think everything about a Wendigo is going to be supernatural. Like, when you tell stories about like this, like, okay, so you know when you get like beat up in the city or whatever, and you're walking home and you get beat up in the city, you don't tell people, "Oh, I got beat up by this one dude and he was like 3 foot tall and he he was wearing glasses." You're like, and you're not gonna believe this thing, man. It was like 9 feet tall, had antlers, and I mean it was like it heard my heartbeat, man. Like you're gonna come up with the most outlandish thing. So whoever was the first one to run into a Wendigo, he was probably like, "Oh man, there was like 6 of them," and then like the next person's like, "Yeah," and they were like 9 feet tall. They were like 9 feet tall, man. But like you can already tell that this article is a hot mess. All right. But here we go. Let's find out how to get away from them, okay? Once the chase begins...
Let the chase begin. I just like picture Wendigo going, like setting all the humans free and then waiting for them to
The most dangerous
game. I'll chase you all down in a second.
Once the chase begins, Wendigos engage in a torturous game. They bait their prey, release shrieks or growls, and sometimes mimic human voices for calling for help. Hey, do you want to play that Wendigo sound?
Yep.
Oh, that thing was scary. When the hunt begins in earnest, a Wendigo becomes all business.
What does he put on a suit?
So they're not all business before.
No, listen. Like, the thing about the Wendigo is like it wasn't even being serious before. it was all fun and games until the chase began.
Then he takes it serious. He puts on his game face.
Are you guys hearing this Wendigo?
What the fuck? Is that real?
Looks like a pterodactyl.
It sounds like he just takes a big old shit at the end.
That's what I asked him. I was like, "Did you look up Wendigo on the toilet?" And he was like, "No, man, it's the Wendigo. it's the Wendigo cries." But yeah. So okay. Oh, here we go.
So he gets down to business. Right?
He's not down to business at all until this point.
Yeah, up until now, he's all fun and games, but. It will race after its prey, upending trees, creating animal stampedes and thus more famine, and stirring up ice storms and tornadoes.
Damn!
Alright, so stop traffic here. As if it was hard enough to believe already. As if it wasn't hard enough to believe already. Now we're talking about stirring up ice storms and tornadoes.
Well, these are how tornadoes happen. Now we're getting to the bottom of science.
Weather, the elements.
He's summoned to like, it's not bad enough. He doesn't already have enough of an edge on you with his supernatural hearing. He's got to stir up ice storms and tornadoes.
Because just when you're about to get away, here goes
matters worse.
Don't be fooled into believing you're safe indoors. The Wendigo can unlock doors and enter homes, where it will kill and eat the inhabitants before converting the cabin into Wendigo domiciles for hibernation.
Does he have like a skeleton key or something? You can just open any door?
Well, it's like the Velociraptor when Alan Grant's like, hopefully they don't learn how to open
turn
doors.
The handle. That's about it. It's not really that impressive, to be honest.
Does he have to ask permission to get into your house too?
No.
He's like at the window, like, "Hey guys."
He's like like if they were. Fortunately, I don't think they're like vampires. So I think they can just kind of come and go as they please. But if they were, can you imagine that situation where you're like, well, don't even worry about Wendigos, guys, because they have to ask to get in, and there's no fooling you. Like it's pretty easy to determine a Wendigo because they're like 9 feet tall and they have hoof or antlers and stuff.
Yeah.
If you can't outrun a Wendigo, can you outgun it? Not easily, this report says. A wounded Wendigo simply regenerates. I wanted to sound like a journalist.
Yeah, that was great. That was on point.
A wounded Wendigo simply regenerates. The trick is to employ silver bullets, or a pure silver blade or stake, and strike right through the Wendigo's ice-cold heart. Note, it's widely believed that a silver-covered steel blade could work if you're in a pinch. So
yeah, because if you're in a pinch, you just happen to have some silver lying around. Who carries silver around anyways, man? Unless you're actually hunting a Wendigo and you've like prepped yourself, like, oh yeah, got all this silver ready to go. But if you just run into a Wendigo, you're not going to have any silver on you. I doubt anybody carries around silver. Even coins aren't even actually made of silver. You'd be screwed, man.
Upon wounding the Wendigo's heart, you must take care to shatter it into pieces, then lock the shattered heart into a silver box and bury it in a church cemetery. Not one to seek a simple end, the rest of the Wendigo must be dismembered with a silver-plated axe, so you can salt and burn the body, and then scatter its ashes into the winds. Or
I'm recognizing a theme here with the silver.
You know what? I bet whoever wrote
To kill a
this,
Wendigo.
I bet whoever wrote this owns stock or is like hoping for an uprise.
It's like, I bought all that stock in silver, man. We're good to go if Wendigos come out.
And the worst
leak
part is this guy has no knowledge of anything else other than Wendigos, so he's just like really reliant on the fact that if he scares, he's like a demagogue of Wendigo culture. Wendigos are making a comeback, dude, and you better have a whole lot of silver on you, I'm telling you. Right
You gotta
now.
be ready, man. Have all the silver.
Just collect as much silver as you can. As a matter of fact, here's a website, or I can sell you some of mine.
Yeah, there's all the silver. This is a great one.
Or as a second option, bury the pieces in a remote location. So like you've got like the easy way and the hard way, but it doesn't really say if like one is better than the other. So like obviously I'm gonna pick the easier one. You know what I mean?
Especially if you're in a pinch.
If I'm in a pinch, I'm only gonna have a silver covered steel blade, so
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
so anyways, it gives like this little warning here. If you skip a step, the Wendigo may be able to resurrect itself, hunt you down, and inflict a slow and agonizing death.
Yes.
So,
Wow, he's a dick too.
yeah. Well, now we know. We need to buy silver. I can't even get to the website. So I went to go to the source of that website, and it doesn't exist. So
Damn. How much does it cost for like okay, let's say I decide to go hunt Wendigos. How much does it cost to like just have some silver swords or bullets? Like you'd have to like make that shit yourself, or can you find it on the internet? Can you buy a silver sword on the internet or a silver bullet?
I'm
Oh,
looking
yeah,
right
you
now.
can, yeah.
What are you looking up? Silver sword?
No, but you can buy that stuff on eBay, dude.
Yeah?
Yeah, let me tell you how much a silver bullet is.
Yeah, let's find out how much does a silver bullet run you? How much does it cost to take down a Wendigo?
Look.
40,
I go in.
let's see, you can get an AR-15, the 5.56 round for $37.
Just one?
Yeah, just one.
Good grief.
Oh, it's expensive to kill a Wendigo.
Yeah.
Clearly. Well, not really, because you can actually go and buy a silver claws collector sword with wooden display stand, 37.5 inch, $69.
Yeah, that seems more efficient than just throwing bullets at him.
Yeah.
You have something to wave around at him, you know it's not going to get stuck. Then you could take the sword back and resell it. Like,
You
know,
can melt it down and
bullets.
turn that sword into bullets for cheaper. You know what I mean?
Do that too?
It might be cheaper
Yeah, but
to
I'm
just
saying
buy a
after you kill
sword
the Wendigo.
and melt it down.
It's cheaper just to let the thing eat you.
It's cheaper just to not go where Wendigos go.
Yes, to let the thing.
So I'm looking at silver bullets, and somehow there's a vibrator takes on here.
Are you buying a vibrator?
I mean, it's only $15.
Can't beat that.
Oh, look at this thing. This one's only $7. Can I take a Wendigo down?
Dildos, or are you looking at bullets?
He's looking up a vibrator to take down the
A silver bullet is, I guess, yeah, that's another term for a dildo.
1 ounce.
This is a, you know,
You can buy a Trump bullet. One. Oh, did you look up on eBay?
Yeah, man, I'm on eBay.
Okay.
The
I
Trump
can't believe
bullet.
I didn't make that connection. It's like, look up silver bullets, and the first thing that pops up is a dildo. Oh, man.
Oh my gosh, it's getting late here, buddy. I'm getting slap happy.
Oh, here we go. So, 12 gauge shotgun shell.
Yes.
That's .999 pure silver. 5
5 ounces.
ounces for $118.
That's for just one bullet? One round?
It's a shotgun shell,
It's
though.
all about the weight of the silver.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So, but I wonder if it's
Seems
like
pretty-
just shaped like a shotgun shell,
Or is there like little silver
or
pellets?
can I shoot it and kill a
And
Wendigo?
it, like,
There's only one way to
buckshot.
find out.
To order it? I'm
Yep.
not going to order a silver shotgun shell. Why does this look like a... 50 sets, 4mm automobile. That's not what I need. Anyway, so we know now that it's expensive to kill a Wendigo.
Really.
If you could convince the Wendigo to use a silver vibrator on itself, would that kill it?
That's what my question is.
Silver bullets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can convince a demon to tell you his name while he's possessing your friend, I'm sure you can convince anything to do anything.
Yeah.
So a Wendigo to put a vibrator in his ass would be easy.
But and the thing is, the silver bullet isn't even actually silver. So you've done all this work. You've taken this Wendigo out for like multiple dates, trying to get him to put this thing in his ass. It's not even silver.
You've wooed him. You've wooed the Wendigo.
Do you have what it takes to woo a Wendigo? Oh boy. James, you got something to send us off with?
Yeah, 1 second. I just wrote something. Where's my pick? Hang on.
It's probably that damn Wendigo.
It stole my pick. You ready?
Then ready, yep.
Lay it on us, brother.
Okay. I think my girlfriend might be a Wendigo. No matter what I say, she won't use this silver dildo. Don't ask why I have a silver dildo. I swear it's not mine. It was here when I moved in. So I think my girlfriend eats human flesh. That might mean one of two things. She's a zombie or a Wendigo. The most likely is she's just crazy about me. Crazy enough to eat my butt. Silver dildo and the Wendigo.
That's how you get them, man.
Yeah. You know, that song might actually woo Wendigo into doing anything you want it to do.
Good point.
All right, you guys.
All right, gents. Yeah, take care and have a good one.
I like how he just immediately hung up. He didn't even say bye.
He's got things to do.
All right.
I always wait around for something after the credits, so.
All right, man. We'll see you later.
Later.
What do we had a lot of different articles here about how to survive a Wendigo. Mm-hmm. Which I'm going to come right out and say, two Bigfoots. That was a horrible article.
Horrible article.
Yeah.
That's a one Bigfooter, the article itself.
What about the one that talked about the king Wendigo?
One Bigfoot.
One Bigfoot as well. I think it did a pretty good job of saying where the Wendigo or what the Wendigo eats.
Yeah,
I think that was pretty good. So
do I believe there's a king Wendigo with all of its Wendigo villagers out there? No, I don't. No, I do not.
So I'll give that one a 2, just because of it had some useful information in it. But the king Wendigo, no, I don't think that's the truth.
Now the existence of a Wendigo. Period.
What do you think? 1 to 5 Bigfoots. Do you think there's a Wendigo? Do you think there's a cryptid Wendigo?
On the cryptid side of it, I give it a 3 Bigfoot, and then on the spiritual side, I give it a 5 Bigfoot.
Oh, you're all in on the spiritual.
Because I do believe that spiritually and demons and we have evidence of cannibals that have people that have ate people. Like, we've seen these things. We've seen evidence of it. Not so much on the cryptid side. There's no solid evidence that says that we for sure know there's a cryptid Wendigo. So that's where I go at it with it. With that being said, there's no hard evidence that Jeffrey Dahmer was a
Wendigo.
a Wendigo, a person possessed by a Wendigo demon, but plausible.
I think I'll go with 4 as far as cryptid. I think there's a cryptid type. I think there's an animal out there that kind of looks like and acts like a Wendigo as we know it. So I think I'll go with a 4 on that one because, again, what Mattsquatch said, I mean, it could just be a Bigfoot, and it was. And the problem with people encountering things is when you experience something, the first time you remember it, you're remembering the experience.
Yeah.
The second time you remember it, you're remembering the time you remembered it. And we talk about this from time and time again. So stuff gets added to, and you continue to stretch your memory of that particular instance. So do I think Mattsquatch is probably correct as far as he ran into something out in the woods, it was scary, you ran away, and you misremembered it. Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So I think I'll go with a 4 as far as a cryptid, but I'll agree with you with a 5 as far as there being a spiritual type of demon type of Wendigo.
My man.
I think, there's so much going on with the spiritual realm that we don't understand. And for me to come out and say, that's, for me, of all people, to come out and say, that's bullcrap. I don't believe in like scary ghosts, demons, monsters, and stuff like that. So I agree with you. I think that there's, and I mean, we talk with all the different types of folklore and everything like that. People, surely, urban legends and such will kind of cross over every once in a while, and there will be some similarities between one thing and the other. And I think absolutely that 5 is a reasonable score.
Alrighty. So Wendigo's real.
Wendigo's real, 110%.
You heard it here.
Proven it.
If you don't believe it after listening to us, then
if you don't believe in the Wendigo now, you are pretty much probably where you were at when we started. But so what about that? What do you think we should go up to Helltown up
Absolutely.
in Ohio?
Absolutely.
It's northern Ohio. It's not that far from here. I mean, it's
I'm off on Mondays and Tuesdays.
We'll take a drive up there, go camping.
Go up there, head up there on a Sunday night and
look for the Wendigo. We need to get our hands on some silver.
Absolutely. I'm not going there without it.
Let's take a poll on the Twitter
if we should go.
And if we'll let the fan decide whether or not we go to Helltown and camp out in search of the Wendigo, and we'll record it. We'll record all the goings on up there.
All right.
We will listen for some of that horrible, terrifying Wendigo screeching. I can't do it. I got a beard. I forgot I'm not a kid anymore. I can't do that.
Until next time, this is Tom.
And this is Dustin from Mattsquatch Presents, the only podcast where we can't even get our names correct. Wendigo is actually how it's pronounced.
Wendigo.
Yeah, we've been fucking it up this whole time.
That's stupid.
In your grandpa's cabin in the Atlantic. Wendigo.